What's happening, y'all?
What's up, guys?
All right, I'm Ashton,
I'm KP
and you are tuned in to the Invehement Company podcast, the show made by music enthusiasts.
for music enthusiasts.
Y'all know what it is.
Yeah,
Today, we got my brother, man. I've been knowing this guy.
my brother.
Yes.
Alex,
Yes, sir.
too kind.
I've been knowing this guy for like literally almost the last 20 years since he was like a kid. And he was a child prodigy in the making. And I just said to myself, man, he's about to kill everybody when he get older. And that's exactly what's happening. So
We're so excited to have him on, the Raymon King, huh?
yes, the Raymon King.
What's up? Y'all still black?
You know it.
Listen, I'm glad. Thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited. Y'all talking about y'all more excited than me. That's really my line.
Oh yeah.
Like literally, I could not wait to get you on. I was like, he's got to be like our first guest. Like literally, first guest. I got to get him on as soon as he has availability because this man be doing any and everything. He is just any and everything.
I appreciate it.
I just was just so grateful that he was just like, yes, sis, like, let's do this day. I'm like, okay, I'm circling back.
I couldn't turn you down. I wouldn't have a place to stay when I go to Toledo.
How about that?
Okay, some food and all of that, period.
You know what I'm saying? Listen, the nap spot, you know what I'm saying?
All the things. Like, I met Ray, like, what was it, like 2 summers ago? And like, from the initial like meeting, it was just like family vibes. Like, it's just been that ever since. Like literally. Like, I've known him forever.
It was like Keisha was my big cousin that was always around when I was growing up, you know, saving me and getting out of trouble or whatever with my mom.
Like, for real, like, it's been nothing but amazing energy, vibes. He's my family. So I'm just super excited to even know him in real life. For real.
Thank you. Why you playing?
So yeah. So Ashley, you can kind of talk about.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll say for me, I've actually like if he remembers this, we the Agape Spring concert at Mount Zion back in like 2000, 2006, 2007. I know he was actually the featured guest musician.
I was.
So he may have been like what, probably 4 or 5, something like that.
Wow. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Wow. You
4 or 5?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't play that day. I was just there. That was actually the first Agape concert I went to. So.
Dude, my mom, I can remember the DVD player. I got up there and played Tri-City had just came out with Destroy This Town.
Yep. Yep.
Bro, that thing was like an army call for me every morning. Like my mom lived by that album. Like lived by that album. I can remember the set, the necessarily peach suits that they had on, you know, but
that's crazy.
The robes, if you watch, do you remember the robes they had on?
Oh yeah.
They was out there looking like living color guests.
Oh, you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy time in life, huh?
So that was your first meeting with him, huh?
Oh yeah.
So, while y'all playing, I remember getting a chance to my first memory of Ashton is Lamar Campbell came to Lorraine.
Oh yeah.
And did that conference, and I was there that entire day.
Oh yeah.
First off, my mom had a lot of faith in Miss Paulette. Shout out Miss Paulette if she sees this. My mom had a lot of faith in Miss Paulette because she would just drop me off to wherever Agape was, and like I wouldn't see her till the sun got dark. And I'm like, am I in? What are you wearing? Do you not? Is your son does not matter no more? when I'm at Agape, it was. But everybody was like an auntie me growing up and a family member, and I remember at that conference, man. The opening song, all about the love of Jesus. Yep. Man, this Goku Negro with this calf shirt on.
This guy.
taking off at the end of because if you've ever heard Lamar do it live, he loops that band. It's all about
goes right back into it.
Oh my gosh. I'm sitting there jaw dropped. I forgot who was standing around me. But dude, that when you talk about lifetime memories, you're one of my first musical influences while we're talking about being excited about anything. So much respect to you just as much as you're giving it to me. Thank you, bro.
Oh man. Hey. Hey, it's getting a little misty eyed up in here, man. So,
no, and this is what I love because like Ohio, like please. Like, please. Okay. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is just to highlight all the amazing talent here in this state. Period.
So, question for you, Ray. You remember Shea Pierre was there on organ?
Sure was. That was Shea Pierre. Yeah.
It sure was. So, Shea Pierre, he's a alumni of Oberlin College. He was going to Oberlin at the time. And I'd already knew him because he was in Nomadic with us. So I've been playing with him. So
bro, oh my gosh, I'm getting so many memories. I remember y'all's first studio session clips on the tan floor.
Yep.
I remember watching clips of you guys even back then, even to where you guys are at now. It's absolutely beautiful to see. But yeah, Ohio music. I'm a prime believer that Ohio really is a ground that can stand toe to toe with anybody. I think it's very rare when you can actually say your entire state, really is just a bunch of hounds, whether we're talking music, musicians, producers, mixing and mastering guys, vocalists. So yeah, I love this. And I can't wait. I can't listen. Even if I'm not on another episode, I'm a fan of this.
Stop it! Stop it!
You'll be back, all right.
Stop it!
Yeah,
I'll personally see to
that. Listen, I'm gonna be back. I appreciate it. So listen, I'm happy. Let's roll.
Yeah. So, you got some questions first, or you want me to go?
Well, I guess to start the interview, I was just gonna, have him speak on his origins in music. What inspired him.
That's okay.
What inspired him to want to be a musician? Like, what were some key elements that made you stick with being a musician? And when you first started playing professionally, who were some of the people that you were working with?
Absolutely. Well, of course, I know I highlighted you, and of course, if I have to talk about you, I have to talk about your brother Eris. By all means, you two were initial, immediate, people I was able to watch and grow up. But growing up, I started out on drums, like every other church baby. The mysterious story says I broke enough pots and pans to where my mom said my Uncle Melvin needed to get me a drum set, or I was going to have to move out at 2 years old. So. Shout out to Melvin. I got my first drum set at 2, and I remember my mother being the music director at Greater Peace Baptist Church in Cleveland, Ohio, where my uncle used to pastor. Shout out Walter Houston. Love you dearly. And I remember growing up just hearing that and waking up, getting up on Sundays. That was back when, Bobby Jones was an essential to your Sunday morning routine. You woke up, welcome to the gospel of Bobby Jones.
Period.
I loved it.
Bobby Jones was my alarm clock growing up, but I actually had a chance to be able to watch, even Ohio guys, drummers like Stephen Williams, that was there and did a run. Shout out Stephen Williams. I just seen him. I didn't, and little did I know, running into Stephen Williams at I Hear Music, I didn't even know that was him. Putting 2 and 2 together when I really got up close in his face. I'm like, nigga, I watched you when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. Oh my God! But Bobby Jones was huge, to be able to actually, it was a show that actually allowed you to actually get a beautiful selection of what gospel music really was. And I think my personal opinion, and it can be backed with some stats, I believe the 2000s is one of the most versatile eras of music, period, across all genres. As beautiful as the 90s was, beautiful the 80s was, that when technology really got a chance to settle in music and, to see what gospel was doing at that time growing up, watching guys, Steve Williams, of course we had Calvin Rogers, your Terry Bakers, God rest his soul, Marvin McQuitty. You had, a plethora of other guys, Stephen Williams, early Alan Mapson, watching those guys on drums was something huge for me. And then when I got the keys, my mother, she remarried in 2007. I moved to Elyria, Ohio, moved away from Cleveland. And I started getting into playing keys. And so my minister of music at the time, God rest his soul, we all know him, Kenneth L. Tyler. He was what we call the Godfather of Lorraine County. I mean, if you didn't know Kenny, you didn't play for real.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You wasn't playing in church if you have not ran, because it's hard to miss him. He's loud.
Yeah, I loved it though, man. Like a true inspiration to the county, man. Like he a pillar.
An absolute pillar. Played, grew up Outlook style. It didn't matter if you were Baptist, Kojic, Apostolic, you knew Kenny. And so when I got there, he was my father's minister. He had been there ever since my father had gotten there and started pastoring Mount Zion in Elyria in 1994. And so when I got into Kenny, Kenny was to me like this hybrid of gospel. Kenny was, at the time, he was going into his 50s, but Kenny could still play, you know, the J.J. Hairston. He can play. He was playing the James Fortunes. It didn't matter. His home was old, but bro, it didn't matter, for him. And so I developed this love for the balance in gospel music per se. And I think that's kind of where my love for, getting into keys and other genres really came from. So really my childhood really centering around him was just getting in the church. And he was the one, and my mom, surprisingly, as crazy as it sounds, being a pastor's kid, they were the ones that were actually the ones that were really pushing me into, you know, playing R&B music, listening to R&B. My mom, I'm sorry, mom, I gotta rat you out. My mom was what you call lukewarm saints. She was teaching James Hall, but when I would go home, man, listen, that Quiet Storm, oh my goodness.
Quiet Storm. Come on, somebody.
You if you really are black, if you truly are black, you know that this is the quiet storm.
This is the Quiet Storm.
What? Everything is silent. You can be in an argument with your mom in the car. Quiet storm, come on, everybody, shut
up. And it's always in the car. That's what I was about to say. My fondest memories of Quiet Storm was always on like a sunset drive with my mom and sister. Period.
the stylistics, the whispers, Brothers, Gap Band, Patty the closer I get to you. What? I don't even have no business knowing these songs.
None of us did.
No business. All my love is all I have, and my dreams are very. Why am I singing parts? I am 6. Talking about, I'm 6. Listening to Switch, but and everything else that was coming on at that time. So I really absorbed music, and I appreciate my mom for, as crazy as it is, allowing me to absorb everything, growing up, even before, getting married. I can remember being 3-4 years old, living back in Cleveland in our home in Lake sorry, I almost said Lakewood, back in Cleveland, and growing up and watching MTV. Back when MTV literally was just a channel that you just hit on, and it was just random music videos, and whatever came on is whatever you was bopping to. Like
me and Ashton literally had a conversation last week on the other episode about music stations, BET, MTV, how it was all centered around music before all this other stuff.
All the reality shows.
Listen, reality shows, back when they weren't really doing interviews, artists could just be, incognito. We didn't care how weird you were. We just wanted you to make bangers.
And we didn't know how weird you were. We had no idea.
Like, y'all could have been doing it as the song is recorded. So what? Listen, my soul is moved. My soul is moved. I like the beat that you're doing. You keep on, all right?
You keep on.
But I remember growing up, and when I got my first drum set, I beat on pots and pans till my mom said I needed to move out at 2 years old. My uncle Melvin brought me, and I remember it, an Arcilic. I'm probably screwing up the word. Forgive me. An Arcilic orange kit. This was when Toys R Us really mattered. You can go in there, and they had options of drums. That was when they invested in you. When you had options for drums.
Options.
Listen, you had the first Discovery brand and whatever else they was giving you. But I remember getting that drum set, and he brought that thing down in the basement. And my mom's closest friend at that time, long-term friend, God rest his soul, Edward Betty Banks, from the Root Boys back in the 90s. He would come over. Him and my mom grew up like this, and he would come over as MT would on, and he would be on the 61 Casio keyboard, and we would jam out. To the Janet Jackson, to the Timberland, to the Nas, to the Jay-Z, to the Angie Stone, to the Jill Scott, to the Pharrell, the Daft Punk. It's not just black music either. You got pop. The boy band era, the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, and NSYNC and all of that.
98 Degrees.
Christina Aguilera. Let's go. Britney Spears.
Christina Aguilera. Little JoJo when she was like 14, 15. This was back when you were singing in the rain. This when you listen. You wasn't no real artist if you didn't have no music video when you was singing in the rain.
With leather on in the desert.
What in the desert? What? Come on.
The leather. Come on, somebody.
You're not singing about love. You
don't
love me. You don't.
You just don't. You have to beg too. If you weren't begging, then you weren't singing R&B, and that's just the way it is. Bring back the begging.
To my knees. To the knees. Listen. Surrender. Surrender, please.
Good Lord.
Listen, period. And that's what it was. Because what we got going on today, listen, we everybody said bring back the begging. Just come on, bring it back. It's all right.
Listen, and but even on the rap side, I know Ash, you can attest to this, the Jay Dilla era. This what the beauty of being a Midwestern state in Ohio is the fact that we are really like a center point. Even though you look at the map of America, you'd be like, we're east. No, we really are a center point. And so Ohio didn't really have necessarily a huge influence on rap, but our rap culture is very much Detroit influence. And so I can remember, even though this is super young, I can remember when my first time ever hearing Jay Dilla's he had a group that he put out. Lord, the group is the
Slum Village.
Slum Village.
Yes. Oh Lord.
I was just about to say Slum Village.
Oh, listen, Lord.
Make my heart stop. Okay, come on, somebody.
That reunion, that 2004 album. Oh man. I can cry. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for me.
Listen, okay, you get me started. And then when you mix that with Dwele, when he got all up in the Slum Village and Jay, like that combined, my God. My God.
That was really like my heart, because when I was growing up, I could only play Offering, growing up. So for me, the songs that were in Offering, like Just Wanna Praise You. I was being so risky at 3-4. I was trying to play, a Dilla beat in Offering, and I barely can reach the pedals on this. I'm all of 3 feet 1/4 of an inch. I'm over here talking. But this is what I was absorbing that at home. It was good. It was universal. So when I got older and started playing keys, Ayers Thomas, that's why I said your brother is so key. Ayers Thomas, another Agape concert. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to, when I get rich, I'm gonna have to write Paulette a check. She helped me with a lot of these encounters, but I remember when the Agape concerts got switched over to Ellis, not Ellis Wilford, no, the Pastor Alvin Lindsay's church, Faith
Ministries.
Faith Ministries, yeah, the big purple carpet. I thought that church was the biggest church in the world growing up at 7, and that was like our personal gospel arena for the local scene. Between that and Greater Victory, those were our 2 spots, and so I remember specifically. I'm 10 years old. That concert was probably like all of 13 songs. And the opening song was I can't think of the choir. I think it was Chicago Youth. He's the joy of my salvation. Yes, he is. Da-da-da-da. I'm forgetting the youth choir growing up, but I remember playing that song. Played the rest of the concert. At the end of it, Ayers comes up to me. He heard me on organ. This was when at the time I was really starting to make it sound like something, to a degree at 10. Ayers comes up to me and it's like, man, yo, little bro, you really sounding like something, man. You really getting good, man. I want you to check out this guy. And Ayers pulled out a ripped up piece of paper and wrote down Corey Henry. And I can vividly remember sneaking downstairs of my parents' room to go to my dad's office, because at the time, this was back when you had a home computer, and that thing, it was essentially the live deal that came up. It was the
exactly
all loud and stuff. And so I remember trying to run and cover the speaker with a blanket so I could cut the speaker back down or whatever. And I came across one of his earliest videos, which I guess really wasn't so early at the time, but he was playing at Doobie Powell Shed. That classic young clip. Apparently, Doobie talks about, and he's only 20 now. Corey, come on, Corey, come on, let him hear you. And for all of 4 minutes, probably 22 seconds, I think that's the time. I'm sitting there just. And for me, he was the first person that was, I guess, playing outside the box in the church world. I mean, growing up, I was still, very influenced by Kenny and stuff, but Corey was the very first guy that I heard. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This, I mean, I listen, and that later progressed to finding some of his influences, and so that's when I began this really deep love for jazz growing up in middle school, and I discovered Oscar Peterson, and I discovered guys like Art Tatum, and then later along the line I discovered guys like Thelonious Monk and Chet Baker. And then you discover horn players, Miles and John and a plethora of others. Then you discover drummers, Phil Jones, Elvin, and Clyde, which is very superior to the sound. And for me, being the person that really played both instruments, I valued the expression of. When I got to middle school, I went to a white school, y'all. Y'all gonna have to forgive me. All of my life, So I didn't get the enjoyment of Black young culture. I was very much immersed into the pop world, and so my music teacher, my general music teacher, at the time in sixth grade, she was getting into guitar, and so and one of the things that was actually cool about growing up in Eastern Heights Middle School in Elyria House, shout out to Eastern Heights, was they supplied you guitars to learn to play for a whole semester. Very unique. I loved it. And so I began to, get into it, and as I was learning guitar, my best friend growing up, Zion Corn, shout out Zion. He's another day one of mine. Zion had just started driving. Now, this was illegal, but he was driving and he had a car, and we were making this McDonald's run. And I was telling him, that hey, I started playing guitar or whatever. And he puts on this guy. His name is Jacob Collier, and Jacob Collier. I think this was when In My Room had just came out. Probably not too long after that, and it's probably what, 2015, 2016 maybe. I discovered Jacob, and when I tell you those two really are like my thing one and my thing two. Musically, I can really say them, and I can go on and on, but those are my two keys really. Them two and Kenny.
That is truly awesome.
So the other question is, when you started working professionally, like who were some of the people that you started playing with when you first started to actually like play out?
On a serious, I didn't really start playing out seriously really till like 17 or so, 16, 17ish. Um, I mean, being in Elyria is a smaller city, so the market for that is, if you want to do stuff, you gotta go to Cleveland. And I was already living outside of Cleveland, so I didn't get a chance to experience, the immediate, always having artists coming through. I think my first interaction with anything with an artist was Rance Allen. I was like 14. Rance Allen had came to Curtis Daniels Church for a service, and out of nowhere Rodney Hubbard was on organ. I don't know if you know Rodney Hubbard. Rodney Hubbard was on organ, and he comes out and he starts just singing his hits, and you just like, wait a minute. And it's 14-year-old me on a piano. Rodney did Rodney didn't worn this organ out already with him. But Rance was like my first encounter, with playing, accompanying an artist, that young at that time, which is really, really special. And then when I moved to Dayton, I had the opportunity to actually bring in Jeffrey Golden to my church, for a fun opportunity at 17. And so Jeffrey, Jeffrey happens to be a cousin of mine by marriage. His brother married me and my mother's first cousin. So shout out to Kevin and them and their entertainment company. And so he was my first guy, to really come in and work alongside and really, I guess, manage, take control of as an artist. And then I'm trying to think, I had them. I had a chance to. Yep, there we go. Thank you, Will. I was a COVID came. COVID happened in 2020, and this is a month before I turned 18. There was a group down here in Dayton that I did an anniversary show for, and this guy named Quintez Matthews was hosting. And I didn't know who Quintez was really at the time, but the flyer said church boy, and it was this nigga who looked like he was a club bouncer, and he had a big old chain on. I'm like, this nigga's hosting? Are y'all serious? Y'all sure he hosting the right event? But that's Tez's style. Tez is always freshly dressed, whether it's dressed or not. He's always fly, bro. So Tez comes in with the hat, big old chain. Tez about 6'2". He really does look like a club bouncer, So like he pull up, and I didn't know that he was the handyman or the right hand man or as the mob would call it, the concierge to the Williamson. I had no clue at that time. So to make a long story funnier and shorter, praise and worship was going on, and I was playing on a funeral organ. And for those that necessarily don't know what a funeral organ is, it's just one of those things that isn't really an organ. It was actually one of them button press organs that had that fake Leslie and spin on it, and it said you can go to volume 10, but that thing was most definitely at volume 6. So out of bad rushing time, they thought it was smart to mic a organ, put a mic on the organ, and then separately mic me with a whole other speaker on top, so the organ can be heard separately outside of the system. And I'm like, this is fun. Y'all should have just rented an organ. Like, this is trash. So I'm mad. So my immature 17-year-old self, I was playing with a group that I already knew I was going to play with beforehand, but I'm just doodling my life away. So I'm full blown just angry shedding. So I'm just giving it. I'm pimp slapping the devil. If it was if it was really unto God, the devil just got jumped. How hard I was, just giving my life away shedding.
Giving him all you had.
But Tez is hosting, and Tez is hearing this. Now, I didn't hear him. I heard him faintly say, as I'm shedding and they're getting the mic, oh, the Williams singers are in the house. And everybody look around. They're like, look in the back. I'm like, where are these niggas? I'm like, well, where they at? I don't hear, I'm like, whatever. So the first group goes up, they go into praise. So, how organists do. We take control. And I was already irritated. So Prentice Knight was playing. Prentice Knight, one of my favorite players of all time to play for. International musician, Vashawn Mitchell, Calvin Hobbs, you can name the credits. If you listen, we play his music in church, okay? We have to play what he plays. So Prentice Knight was there, and Prentice is a very quiet person. So he gives me this look with his glasses as I'm shedding he like, all right now, you all right? And I'm looking at Prentice, and he kind of looks at he's an observer, so he looks at my situation, he's like, all right, you know what? I understand. So he lets me have it. So I'm giving, as I call it, giving my life to God on this organ. And I do the set with them. I do the set with the Humble Sons. And I leave. I'm so mad. I just leave. My mom came. My mom texted me. She's like, hey, I'm hungry. I'm like, you know what? You drove. Let's go.
Right. Like, we out.
Listen, we out. I left with her. 2 months later, November 2020, Tiffany Andrews is in Dayton. My uncle Corey Pruitt is hosting a COVID testing event. Tiffany Andrews happened to be the 2:00 act. The Williams singers were the 4:15 act. So as we are closing out, Tiffany's set on, I'm playing with some fellow good musician friends of mine. The Williams singers are coming in to the back behind the stage outside, and they're hearing us. And so Desrael, this is before he had cut his hair. Desrael, at the end of the set, he taps me on my back and it's like, hey boy, you that boy from the Humble Sons event on that organ. I said, yeah. I said, you Desmond. He said, yeah. Hey, look, I need to talk to you after our set. I'm like, all right. I'm like, y'all said his first and foremost was an hour and a half. A nigga need a nap. One. I don't know if I'm gonna stick around as long, but I'm gonna hear you. I chose to stick around. When I tell you, it was some of the most beautiful, polished 25 minutes I've ever had a chance to experience. Because I wasn't really a quartet dude at that time. I didn't really know too much. But Williams singers really, when you hear them, they're not really quartet.
I was about to say they really took it to a whole nother level of when you hear them, and then traditional quartet. It's a beautiful blend.
The Williams singers, to me, I consider them like the mint condition of gospel, because like they aren't R&B, they aren't necessarily soul, or you know how mint condition can be either. You know, Williams singers can be either. You know, and so I stuck around. I heard the set. They called me to the back of the room. He like, man, I heard you from 2 months ago. Yada yada yada. I'm like, yo, I'm a fan of y'all. Like y'all telling me y'all heard me, killing me. You know, long story.
So you got the text from what's its name?
Yes, I'm in Mississippi. I'm visiting my uncle, Michael Evans. This is like maybe like somewhere near July or so, towards the end of July. I had Desreal's number. We exchanged info back in November, and you know, some just told me to text him. And so I was a little embarrassed because his message did go green, and I'm like, oh snap, man. Maybe he got a new one. I done lost it, you know, because they actually did make an attempt to reach out in March for a date. And I was in school and I was begging my mom. I was like, Mom, come on, I'm 18. Come on. I done flights before. Like, come on. Like,
let me do it.
Let a nigga live. Hey, come on. You know what I'm saying? You know, but you know, times has changed. You know, she's like, no, you need to graduate, you need to focus on school. I'm like, Ma, it's over. But she didn't let it do. So I texted the number. Green, probably maybe about 10 minutes go by. I'm on this dirt road. I'm on my way to go get a chicken biscuit at noon. Yes, they sell chicken biscuits at noon in Mississippi. They are chicken biscuits, solely chicken biscuit spots.
Good eating.
Bro, I mean, you get big every time you go down. It's a great time. I get a text back. It says, hey, I'm going to call you in a few. I'm like, cap. The next text message says, I got 4 dates for you if you want them. If I want them? Come on, man. You play it. Like,
let's go.
Let me get him. You know, so I end up talking to him. He calls me probably not even another 20 minutes or so later, like you said. You know, we talk on the phone. Michael's in the car. You know, so I'm talking. Hey, Michael, you know, I'm on the phone with the Williams. You know, you on the phone with the Williams? Okay, young blood. Okay, I see you. You know, so he tells me. So I get my date. My first date with the Williams Singers is in August. It's a week before I move in to my dorm. I'm getting ready to go to Cleveland State University the next weekend. My first date with the Williams Singers, I go to Houston. I get my flight and I go, and I remember my friend Jada Gardner. She picked me up, and shout out Jada, that's my sis. Love you to death. She picked me up and she drove me all the way across from the airport, all the way across town to this church, and you know I'm in there for sound check, you know, or whatever, and so. This is hilarious. Funny story. Story goes, I'm in sound check with the guys, and their show, they for lack of making sure things were cool, they didn't have their keyboard player, their main keyboard player, my bro Jason here. And shout out Jason here. Jason here is the talk box dude. All the talk box material that you hear on that is straight up Jason here, straight up Dayton, Ohio. Shout out Jason. And he plays Rhodes. He does all that collectively, you know. So he wasn't there for the gig, so they had all of that, you know, in the show. And so I pull up, and so I have to stack, you know, all that. And so I'm playing against and all that good jazz. And then they just stop the show. He's like, man, just let him play. He here. whatever the singer, they're musicians. All three of the brothers are musicians. They all play, keys, a little bit of keys, organ. All of them play bass and guitar. So that so they know, like, hey, that ain't what we play at all. Yeah, so I'm playing it, and they give me, okay, okay, you didn't learn. Okay, you good. All right. Fast forward. This is crazy. Me, Aaron Smith, Darren Bell, and I forget the guy that we were in the car with in Houston, one of their pals. We get in the car with them, and we rolling down. We go to this shop. First off, we already had a tire sent, to me, white pants. It's different for me. I went and bought white pants before I left to come into town. We doing white pants or whatever, and all white was supposed to be the attire. We're in the car. Darren goes, "Hey, yo, bruh, these niggas know we not wearing these white pants, right?" And I'm looking at Sticks, I'm like, what you mean? You got the uniform? It's my first serious road gig, so I've been raised to, hey, when you get out there, follow the protocol.
What you're told.
You do what you're, I'm baby conditioned to, I'm a freshman in this. So Sticks goes, oh, I didn't even bring them. I'm like, and I look in the car, I'm looking at these niggas, I'm like, y'all niggas the band and y'all niggas not gonna be in a tire for the show. I'm 18, I'm a little fresh. I'm like, what? So I'm in the back seat with Sticks like, hey, little bro, I know you didn't bring white pants. Darren, before I even get a word, Darren like, hey, you better not have brought no white pants. I'm telling you, I'm not. Look, hey, bro, look, where's a Burlington? He tell dude in the driving, we go to a Burlington. I'm at the time I wear a size 30 jeans or whatever. There was no 30s and there was like no 28s, no 29s. I'm over here breaking the code on my first show. I'm like, oh man, this is bad. But if the band's in uniform may not be too bad. I'm looking there, whatever. I had to suffer with a size 34. No belt. So I'm
out here wrong. They had you out there.
I'm out here. I feel like a 2000 high school's kid. Everything, But I still got my white shirt. I still wore the white. I want to keep this gig. It was my first show. So we come back to the show and we're there. We're situated. The fellas are on the bus. They listen to music rehearsing. And so I'm standing outside with the band or whatever. And by all means, to make anything more pressuring on me, out of nowhere, this black car pulls up. Dude comes out, lets out Kimberell. I forgot she's from Houston. She's a native. So I'm looking at the dudes. I'm like, yo, that's Kimberell. What the heck? They looking at me like, yeah, no, we and I'm like, oh, y'all done seen her a couple. He's like, bro, yeah. So I'm like, you know what, Ray, relax, just chill. I walk up in there, we getting set up for the show. She introduces us, and she's giving everybody looks. Kim is a musician too. Shout out Auntie Kim, love you, Def. I can actually call Auntie. She called me nephew. I ain't lying on here. I can prove it. Pictures and all. I don't fake that. Listen, no, not at all. But no, she introduces us, and we do our 40 minutes, and I'm nerve-wracking, but so I switched to keys because again, the show is stacked. They got organ in the show. They didn't think there was going to be no keyboard player, so I move over to Rhodes. So there are spots in the show that are open. That we didn't necessarily get through in the sound check, but I'm a studier. I really, appreciate the study of music. So I watched a lot of shows. I watched the live tapes. I studied all the albums. I'm like, okay, what did they do to throw each song? Whatever kind of case. And, those moments with just the band, Kim was just giving us eyes and, the kid in me, I'm beaming out. And so I'm enjoying it. And so after the show and we met, I had a chance to meet her. I come back home, I moved to college. And so from that point on, you know, we started, William Singers kind of really took me everywhere in terms of being able to meet a lot of people. You know, William Singers is very much respected, not just a gospel, but R&B vocalist, you know, too, you know, amongst, you know, privately and publicly. A lot of people may not know, you know, how strong that is, you know, with them. But I was able to, you know, be able to be on the same ticket with Ty Tribbett. You know, I was able to meet people like Zacardi Cortez. You know, I was able to connect. I was able to get recognized, you know, from other people, even if I wasn't with them. They're like, hey, man, I seen you playing with the Williams Singers. And so almost the last 3 years, you know, being connected, 4 years really being connected to them has allowed me to really, you know, be connected with such other artists. It's been a validator, you know, for me to be able to get on certain things, you know, because their hierarchy and their musicality for, you know, for I know y'all listen to them, you know, it's not the traditional, you know, whatever. It's music. It's real music. And so
absolutely.
So from everybody that I've had a chance to do, Lisa Page Brooks, which was a huge one for me.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. That was like the next question, like to kind of like walk us through that situation that went viral, turned into a whole thing. She made a song, and that was like just a flowy kind of situation from what I understand. So walk us through that scene.
It was listen, God ordained. It was the best way I can say it was God ordained. My boy Sean put my name in the hat to do the concert for a 3-day conference that was happening down in Dayton. Shout out to Amari Wright. He was actually MD Amari from Texas. So he comes up, I come in on the day. He's like, hey man, look, these are the artists, these are the tracks. You know, man, look, I gotta do a whole bunch of other stuff. He give me the exact. He like, man, listen, this has been a weekend. I gotta do a whole bunch. Just let me, you know, I'm gonna let you do this. You know, can you do it? I'm like, yeah, no worry, I got you. No doubt. Like, cool, bro, man. I ain't tripping, man. I already know, man. Sean and gave you so much hype. Shout out to my boy Sean. Sean is like if I've probably done so much stuff with Sean Bryan, it don't even make no sense.
Shout out to Tukey.
Shout out to Tukey. Tukey, I don't even. Oh, bro, there's endless. Shout out to Sean because he was there to help me make that moment. And my bub, Ronald Frost, the therapist. I call him the therapist, one of the coldest drummers I've had a chance to encounter. But you know, it goes down, you know, in sound check. Lisa and Tasha come together. I was assigned them to, and oh Lord, I forgot the other artist, Crystal Aiken. Thank you, Lord. Crystal Aiken from Texas. And so we rocked, and my auntie Jackie Dixon too. It was a blast. She wasn't. If you've seen her in the video, she was the lady in the short, light-skinned lady in the bob in the corner. Yeah, that. Bro, yep. But yeah, so sound check rolled, and I had a chance to meet Miss Lisa, probably about a little over a year ago. Prior in January 23, I had a chance to work with an artist out of Elkhart, Indiana, and we were on the same ticket in Toledo. We were opening for her. It was her and Jason Claiborne. Ticket. And it was very cool. My guy David Williams, shout out David Williams, was there.
Shout out David from Toledo.
Yep. Yeah. And so I actually had a chance to meet her at that event, you know, and meet her there. And you know, I walked in, you know, and I'm a person that tries to, you know, be, you know, respectful. But you know, if I meet you, I want to make sure you remember, you know, like, hey, you know, I may have seen you once before, you know, try to be, you know, and friendly, you know, in that manner. So she's like, I remember that concert. Oh wow, it's so nice to meet you. Okay, this is gonna be good. She's one of the sweetest. Oh my God, one of the sweetest.
She is sweet.
Sweetest beast of. Oh my God, just absolutely amazing. Shout out to Miss Lisa. But soundcheck rolled. I did soundcheck with Tasha. It went stellar. Tasha is another amazing, you know. Listen, a replica.
Literally copy and paste.
I mean,
and copy and paste. Early 2000s, we used to go to Detroit all the time. Go to their church, you know. I was in a group called Winsco back in the day, and we used to like. They did pop-up stuff like what Carlos Whitlow did yesterday.
Yes.
The pop-up midnight musicals and stuff. Like we used to do that stuff all the time. So yeah, Lisa has always been just sweet. Tasha's always been sweet, and they always just been some beasts.
Oh, listen, literally, and they don't mind talking to anybody. They're respectful, you know. They love and give everybody the same equal treatment. You know, they're very kind people, you know. So the moment goes necessarily that in sound check, she did kind of explain that she kind of wanted a moment like that, but that yeah thing was not. It wasn't there. It wasn't even that. It was mildly explained, you know, just transitioning out of the track and just doing something. Well, of course, and if anybody has had a chance, if you go on her page, there's an extended version of how that actually played out necessarily, you know, coming out of her track. I just want to say thank you. And the huge significance really of that was that it was not even a month ago that Bishop Brooks had passed.
Right, yeah.
And the crazy thing is, I was actually was able to attend that musical and that funeral. Ohio Baptist General Convention, state convention was happening in Toledo. And we stayed in Detroit. You know, we wanted to stay in Detroit. You know, but I had the time to actually go and attend, and even there, I had a chance to connect with a lot of people and meeting a lot of artists that really showed support. Because Bishop Brooks really, you know, is
and he was I
mean, he is on the Mount Rushmore of writers, producers, musicians. I mean, you know,
certainly.
By all means. And so I was there to attend and be there. And, you know, and like I said, you know, when I told him about the picture of meeting him, I told him I was there for the funeral and stuff. And, you know, meeting them. And, you know, even Jay Allen Brooks had a chance to encounter Jay Allen years ago, but, you know, connecting with them through that. So it was sentimental for her to really want to transition out of that moment, you know, of the track. If you heard, you know, her hit single, you know, I just want to say thank you. The extended version really plays out, you know, to some more a moment between her and her husband, you know, in that in keys. And so, you know, that I really had to be delicate with that and how we got out of that moment. And so in the extended clip, you know, it starts with her, you know, singing the, and now let the weak say I am strong, for say I am rich. And she's rolling into that. And, you know, it was a very much just organic rolling moment that was kind of planned. But when we got to that was just air. And it was just like, oh wow, this feels great.
It was great.
It was just one of those, oh man, this feels great, you know. And it was for her, I really felt it. I felt it in my own interpretation to really feel like it was kind of like a therapeutic moment, you know, of life really going on, because that was her, if I'm not mistaken, her first or one of her first few engagements outside of right after that, you know.
It was right before, she moved out of the house and everything.
Yeah.
She was like working on that, like, because it blew up so heavy, and then she started recording. So do you know any of the ins and outs with that? Like, were you asked about being on the record, or how did that go?
Yes. So after of course the moment happened, all that good days, maybe that was a Saturday that happened. And the video started blowing up really huge on like that Saturday nightish. Monday really is when it got everywhere. Probably I was at my parents' house. It's like a Tuesday, probably Tuesday. Tasha actually called me, and she was in the studio with her, David Outing and Gerald Haddon, and they were getting ready to start the song. And they were like, well, hey, you know, what's the key? You know, I was like, oh, that moment happened in E flat. They're like, okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. Be safe.
Okay.
And then probably about, swear to God, that was it. It was a 45-second call. That was all that was needed. You know, that's all they needed was the key. You know, David Outten in the room. David Outen's one of the dopest. And, you know, so, and not even a month later, next thing you know, I go on Instagram and I'm like, oh, snap, this turned into a song.
A real song.
It turned into a song. And it was just really cool to see something like that transition to that, and just to be a part of the organic beginning of it.
But right.
Such
an organic moment.
It was beautiful. And just recently, last month, Miss Lisa was in Cincinnati, and then we had a chance to connect and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And, it was beautiful because we had a chance to talk about it, and, you know, we had a chance to converse and really connect about it. And when we kept in touch, you know, even after that moment, in spite of every solo, I sent her a couple of records that I had coming up, you know, some personal projects, and she would respond back. Like I said, she really is a humble, a sweet person, you know, when she when she wants you and she locks you in, she's locked in with you. And so I greatly appreciate her and that experience, because that allowed me to do some things and be in, again, like it was a validator, to some very key moments. And validation only comes from God in my eyes. So all those things are God ordained moments. So I just couldn't be more thankful that he let me be a part of it.
Absolutely.
For real, yes.
I love that, because I was like, we have to talk about that moment. Like, that moment is crazy.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, Good Morning America. Like, you hear yourself on Good Morning America and crap, and you're like, dang, this is unique. And you see the parodies of it. Even people that weren't even related to in church found it and was like loving it. And it's like it just shows the beauty of
music.
Music, not only music, but just the flexibility of God's message. God is hysterical. Like, like God ain't always
I'm learning
serious.
that every day, man.
Facts.
Like, God ain't always serious, so like, that's why I really see music as such a golden meal ticket, in terms of communication. Music really is a language, and especially how we communicate it really in church, specifically. We talk about, oh, we gotta keep a thing, we gotta keep a certain style. Not to say that we can't honor, what has been and what has kept or what has remained as a foundation, but we have a sea of believers who have so many different frequencies of ear tunings that you're telling me that God can't adapt. God is not that kind of. God can't flow through jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
God can't throw through a neo soul backbeat. God can't trap you through some classical melodies. Like, you're kidding me. Like, slow down, bud. Like,
so do you see gospel music like blending, like being more open to blending with other genres like hip hop, R&B, pop, that kind of thing?
I have said this philosophy since I was a teenager, and I got it from a guy that I heard on the radio. My father, shout out to my dad, Marcellus Cunningham. My dad, he really didn't listen to music necessarily growing up. When I was growing up, my dad listened to radio, podcasts, Sports Center, or preacher podcast type dudes. And I was probably maybe 12 when I heard this, and I didn't really get it immediately, but I got it when I got to high school. But it goes, I can't even remember the guy's name to this day, but I remember this voice, and I remember the day perfectly. He said there's no such thing as Christian music, but there is such thing as Christian lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of stop and you kind of pause and you assess the statement. He's really saying that the gospel isn't defined by specific sound. The gospel, what do we call the gospel of Jesus Christ? It's a message.
It's a message.
It's not a song. It's not a format. It's not a formula. It's
right.
It's a message. It's a statement. And so when you apply that to the flexibility in how we've interpreted gospel music, if you look at, first one, we can just analyze the beauty of praise and worship. Those two beautiful diversities that we've kind of classified by tempos, sadly. Praise doesn't have to be a fast song, just like worship doesn't have to be a slow tempo song. And and even back to talking about the complications of Christian music and Christian lyrics. If I were to take let's say if I were to take what's my, oh my God, Lord have mercy, take Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, scratch all those words and just leave the beat. And if I were to throw Lecrae lyrics on him, a Christian rapper, that song is no longer just a rap song. It's now a Christian rap song because of what?
The lyrics.
The lyrics, yeah.
Nothing musically changed.
Right.
But the message changed. Mm-hmm. So now the music is no longer under this, what we consider a secular umbrella. It's now under this umbrella of Christian music, of gospel music that we classify.
Right.
To be solely only deemed to be by selected sound. But if that's the case, then Christian rock is what? It's just rock talking about Jesus? No, it's just Christian rock. It is what it is. It's the message that makes the believer attractive, which is why you can have the beauty of CCM music, which is Martha Manuzzi's and the hill songs and the elevation worships and the elevation rhythms, and and then you can have the Donald Lawrence and then Kurt Carr's and the car, and you said in the Carlos Whitmores and the Brian Thomases, and you can have that beautiful diversity of music and sound and flexibility. Black people, we first and foremost, we created everything.
I was just getting ready to say, I mean, what is it that we haven't created?
We are music. Let's just cut that to the case. We are music. Robert Johnson, blues and rock. We thank you.
Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Sister Rosetta, come on, run it down. You jazz music, come on now. You can't get nothing without us in jazz.
Nothing.
Even back to what medieval times when they were just doing the choral music, even in the early Catholics, early church music. If you go before that, that's just the basis of chants that we were doing back at home in Africa, or Kemet. For those that really know, Kemet is really in Africa. If you know your homework, but that's a whole nother episode. We can
do it.
Whole nother episode, okay? Because y'all like to say these origins are all from this country and this country, but where is but God bless you, but it starts with us. And so I think as I've loved and got into other music and loved the appreciation, the value of just the music, not adopting into the system that belongs to, because of course that's a whole nother system that comes out of, but appreciating jazz, appreciating R&B, appreciating rock. Especially, I remember when I was still playing organ and growing up 9 years old, I discovered Joey Jordison from and first off, it's a very wide left comparison to go from shedding to We Lift Our Hands in the Sanctuary to Psychosocial. It's a very, very extreme contrast, but it was just the energy, the enjoyment of the purity of just what was playing melodically, and again, putting that back in the music. Tone was probably the first. I consider him, and I like to always add him as one of my key examples. He really is the epitome of versatility in gospel music, just period, like all the way around. And you can look at everybody else's catalog and say, oh, they had praise music, they had choir. No. When I talk about diversity in Christian music, I've already made the statement clear. It's not a genre. It's a lyric system as it is. If you look at that out the box album, go down the line and you start dissecting that. When I tell you there was every kind of what we consider genre of music in that album, from the first 6 songs, you have high energy rock.
I was just about to say rock,
high run. Everything. Then you get down to like tracks 8 and running on. You get the choir section, games, and Work on Me. That Work on Me was like
Work on Me.
It was like it was.
And I love how he added the big band element into that too, with the horns and everything. So that's what really did it for me.
That nostalgic Harlem Renaissance, that's our sound. Yes. We're grand. We are grand. We were grand in our music, even when we were slaves.
Exactly.
When we were the Ray Charles film, I'm not Ray Charles film, Lord have mercy. The James Brown film had a scene where they were talking about where he learns, where he apparently got his identity out of church, his mannerisms, his characteristics. The scene, if you listen to the music that was being played, it was no bass. It was a lady on a trombone. I think it had a trumpet. Big Mama was on a bass, and Other Mama was on a snare. And when I tell you that sound was just as loud as if it was a whole 5-piece band, we've always been grand in our approach. But if we weren't in the church and we took those same instruments and put them on the street, that's our New Orleans.
I was just getting ready to say that's New Orleans.
That's marching band. That's come on. Don't do that.
When the Saints go marching in.
Okay.
Listen, and you keep running that album down. He's getting to the worship column. Your word, the spirit realm, make me over. Oh my God,
make me over again.
And then I know Ashley can attest to this. I remember having the DVD.
I did too.
And when I tell you, Toto's Junos would come on,
with Sheila
and you
E.
hear that. And Sheila E would come. What?
Yep.
All, but that was all. But it was all given to God.
Man, you done started something now. Like what?
God. So no, I believe music. Gospel music is it's not a genre. It's a lyric system. It's a message, and we as the people that create it and love it, we got to be the ones to be able to make it diverse.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So from here, I guess that's a perfect segue to go into the project that you're working now, Heart Poetic.
Yeah,
because like I've listened to that recording like time and time over. I'll say this: "Helpless Belief" is probably my favorite track on that album. But we can talk about that in a second. But yeah, shout out to your group, Heart Poetic. How did that project? How did that band come about? And yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Well, the beginning of Heart Poetic was kind of hazy at first. I kind of wanted it. I was getting told, growing up, it's like, man, you should just be your own artist. You don't need a band. You don't need to play for artists. You should just be your own. You're so creative. And I was a little shy, getting into that motive. Like, I can do my own thing. All right, that sounds cool. I was always creating my own, creating my own music and form and all the time, but I still enjoy the beauty of creating for others, on behalf of others. But I had attempted, to do a solo kind of thing per se, or a form of Heart Poetic. I shout out to these two guys. They're Kanan Shank and Hayden Floral. They're two pals of mine from Cincinnati. I did a couple shows, tried to do that little thing, and it was kind of cool, but I realized I tried to do like a real purified jazz formula, but I realized that really wasn't who I am. I am, for me, musically, because of the amount of music that I have absorbed so much growing up. Like I said, I talked about, growing up in front of the TV of MTV and hearing Britney Spears and Lindsay and everything else, Dilla, Jay Timberland, Mary J. Blige, the old Isleys, growing up and driving nights, listening to the Quiet Storm, the Smokey Robinsons, the Isleys, the Stylistics, the Aretha's, the Isley, all of the Gap Band, all of the above. And then, growing up in church, absorbing the Kurt Cars and all of that, I've processed music really to just be a really one language that really just has a lot of emotions that you can just lay into.
It's like a melting pot of, yeah.
Genuinely, music is moody, and it puts you in moods. It can take you out of moods. Music is a conversation. Just like how we're having. While I'm talking, you guys are listening. When you guys are talking, I'm listening. And music doesn't talk over itself. In the formula of what music is, and that's what makes it beautiful. And so when I finally designed Heart Poetic as a band, my good frau, one of my longest friends, longest current standing friends, Kelvin Williams, he comes from a blues background in Dayton, and I got introduced to him through my wife Ziana. Shout out Ziana.
Yes, shout out wifey.
And Kellen introduced, and I met him via Instagram. And funny story, me and Kellen had a chance to do a gig together, my first time ever hearing him, and I was really in the decision of really wanting to make a band. I was getting ready to actually leave to go to Cleveland. This is ironically, I got home from Mississippi. I got that call from the Williams Singers. Not even a week after that, I started preparing to open for this rapper, KennyHoopla, which was a really huge, alternative rapper guy in the huge scene. He was for the PYTs, but they loved him. He was huge, and he was pretty huge in Dayton at that particular time. And so he was coming to do a show at the Bright Side. And my homie Canvas Love, a good pal of mine from Springfield, shout out Canvas Love. He had just released his new EP, and he was really running with his good music. He was a very dope underground rapper. He'll be coming back soon because we got to bring him back for the team. And so came back home, and we started rehearsing. And I come to my first rehearsal, and I knew my classmates, my old classmates of mine, Carter Griffin and Drew Powell, who were jazz bands mates of mine at our high school at Stivers. When I came into the jazz band, I was a sophomore. They were juniors. And so I spent 2 years, and I give a nice kudos and credit to those guys, because I was growing up playing drums when I really got heavily involved with jazz before I progressed to keys and playing jazz. And so they really taught me the authenticness of playing, you know, of course, Ash, you know, playing in a trio setting, playing in a quartet setting, playing behind a horn player, you know, that was my true like boot camp, you know, in jazz was my sophomore and my junior year of high school, breaking those grounds, playing with those guys who were already conditioned in jazz. And so we come to rehearsal, and so I see Carter and Juice car, and then I see this freaking Honda or whatever, and it's all smoked out. I'm like, who the fuck? And now I kid you not, this is hilarious. I was a teenager and I was doing my little thing or whatever too. So, you know, I pull up, I'm like, you know, I'm thinking I'm the only one. You know, I'm like, you know what? Okay, might be all right. I come in, it's Kellen. And Kellen's sitting there. He's sitting there with a jar of, for lack of a better term, ear cubes. And I'm like, you know what? Are you going? I need one of those too. And he goes, and he's like, man, you know, listen, I just had this. I'm like, no. Don't worry. I got my own ear cubes, you know. And from that point on, we have been bros ever since. We did that show with KennyHoopla. It was amazing. Open for him. It was fantabulous. And so I found him to be one of my guitar player pals of mine.